welcome back to the Hustle Wing podcast. Hustle Wing is the leading marketplace for side gigs. And on today's episode, I'm ecstatic to welcome the co-founder and CEO of Wistia, Chris Sapich. Chris, thanks for being here.
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I think one of the things I'm most excited about is, and I hope you take this the right way, you're a little bit of a weirdo like myself. I got to see your About Us page on Wistia. So
Yeah.
I am so stoked to get to pick your brain and
Yeah.
kind of learn a little bit from you. But I think in today's world, when people are so polished and think things kind of happen on a consistent schedule, when someone's unique or an experience is unique, it really stands out in your mind. And I've really been looking forward to this. So thank you for making the time. And with that, can we just jump right into what is Wistia?
Yeah, Wistia is an all-in-one video marketing platform. So what does that mean? We're trying to make it so easy to make video, edit it, repurpose it, host it, go live with it, that you can save lots of time by having an all-in-one solution. So that's what we do. I could go further, but that's probably enough.
No, let's go further. So what's a good elevator pitch for Wistia?
Yeah, it's the easiest way to get more value out of the videos that you're using at work.
And then one of the questions, this is like kind of off script, but compared to some of the other folks in the space, I want to give, most people I think at this point know Wistia and what Wistia is about, but maybe,
how are we different?
Yeah, exactly. So talk about some of the competitive landscape, and you don't have to name drop if you don't want to, but how do you guys stand above?
Yeah, so we're different in a lot of ways. And actually, back to your point of being a weirdo, like if you want different results, you got to be different. Like you don't get different results by being the same. And I think that's like a big lesson for me. This is a complete side note, but I remember once I went to some entrepreneur event and everyone had to write their own bio, and my bio was like, I just thought it was funny and made me laugh to write it. It was like, I'm really into boating, but I don't have a boat. Like, please, just a bunch of things like that. And throughout the whole event, people were like, you're the guy who wrote that crazy bio. And I didn't, it literally was to bring me joy while I was doing it. And yet like it made me stand out, and I had way more conversations with people than I would have otherwise. And so I'm just a big believer that like you want different results, you got to be different. And when it comes to our product and our platform, the way I can tell you how it's different is a lot of different ways. The most simple thing is that we know this space really well. We've been doing this 17 years. What that means is we were way too early in our market. way, way, way too early. But we, along the way, figured out how to make a product that's actually easy and is actually powerful. And that is probably our biggest difference, is people go in, they use Wistia compared to something like Vimeo. And it's like, hey, Wistia is so much easier. I have so much more confidence when I'm using this product. That it really saves me time. And then ultimately there's a lot of features that are always different at different moments. Like our analytics are different. They show you how people watch second by second, gives you an individual heat map. You can take that data, put it into a marketing automation platform, for example. You can aggregate it, understand engagement. You can tie it in to understand, you can host podcasts with Wistia. You can use all these different types of things. And there's a lot of different features, but really it comes down to actually like the feeling you get when you're using the product. And Vimeo, pretty good company, gone public. They have if you look at their website, it says they do like everything under the sun. The way that they got there is by acquiring all of those products. What that means is that, it's a hard job they've set themselves up for, to actually try to integrate these 20 products together into one is very hard if you've ever done it. We've taken a very different approach, which is like we've really built everything ourselves. And that lets us do things, that lets us make things that are like, really simple feature that can drive an enormous amount of value. And I'll give you an example. We have an editor in Wistia. We launched only a year ago, and customers were asking, hey, we have videos that are up there. We want to repurpose them. We want to edit them. We just recently launched text-based editing. So we automatically transcribe the video. You have the text. You can edit the text. You can edit the video. And that one feature, which is actually in beta now, you can get in your Wistia account. You go in there, and if you don't see it, you can just ping us. We'll put you in the beta, but it's rolling out to everybody by the time this episode comes out. Is driving so much value. It's so simple. And the reason it works is because it's one simple product. And you can go from seeing a website you've embedded, a video you've embedded on your website, to editing and changing a line and having it going back and replacing that thing live. So it actually saves you so much time because it's so highly integrated. But ultimately, to deliver on this stuff, we have to make it easy, and that's really what's different.
It's an interesting model. I'm familiar with Wistia in 2017, and I'm sure I reached out to you way back in the day when I was just a little kid. But like, I was launching this employee engagement startup, and we used Wistia for our hero page, and like really to get analytics on if people weren't understanding this employee engagement product. And it was super powerful for us to be able to take that explainer and modify it and change it, reduce it, add information, because the analytics were so powerful back then. So it's a cool model. I know there's a lot of folks in the space. I've seen you guys consistently around as the top. In 2006, I mean, 17 years in startup world is like, it's might as well be 100. I mean, it's like a really long time. So I don't know if it's just that you guys were early to market, but it's certainly a level of persistence, I think, for sure.
I think, you know, what happened is like, we thought, this is the truth. I've said this many times. I was just on another podcast last week and someone was like, is this really true? Is this really true what you're telling me? Which is like, my co-founder and I thought we'd do this for 6 months because we'd run out of money in 6 months. So we really thought we were starting. We got this idea, this video thing is going to happen. We see YouTube happening. We see the open source tools underneath the hood that are enabling this. Like, I think right now the similar moment is AI. There's all this generative AI, right? We saw a shift like that happening. We looked at how much savings we had. We said we can survive for 6 months. So we either need to sell this business after 6 months or we just need to tell no one that we even did it. That was our strategy. And it was funny because the money lasted a lot longer than we thought. We could live more cheaply than we thought. We started making our first dollar about a year in. And it really was not until 4 or 5 years in that we started to really get traction. And it was a thing we kept asking ourselves, like, we thought we'd do this for 6 months. We're 4 years in. If you told me the amount of revenue we had then, I probably wouldn't have done it. I would have been like, no way. Like, this is going to suck. But the process of building the company was fun. And I think that's like, it's like the secret to persistence is like how the work is done matters. And so if it's actually enjoyable, and when I say fun, I don't mean like ping pong. I mean actually having hard problems to solve. I find fun if I'm working with a team that inspires me, and hopefully I inspire them. And that's kind of like the secret. And so suddenly it's like, I hope this is my job. Like, I hope I'm still working on it, because then you get to compound all the things that we're doing. And so it kind of flips around from like this, like, wow, it's forever, to it really, I mean this when I say this, it really feels like the beginning. That's so weird to say, having done this for so long. But that's just kind of how we've gotten to where we are.
It kind of cycles though. I mean, like you were talking about trends and patterns. And so I think there is this sense and understanding of like, it does kind of begin again as AI comes in and there's new tools and new resources and bandwidth opens up, right? Like you were literally, when you guys started, I mean, was 56K DSL, like you had 1 megabyte internet speeds were probably.
That's exactly right. We were like, cable internet's coming. It's here for some of us. It's not, there's broadband, video is going to work. And it was like, it's going to work because of the conversion. It's going to work because of we were talking about stuff like that. And yeah, now I look at it as like our market became early stage again in 2020, basically. And it was 2020 for me, like COVID marked everyone going remote. But the biggest thing that slowed our market down pre-COVID was a fear of being on camera. A fear of making content and having it hurt your brand instead of helping your brand. And suddenly we're all at home. You're seeing, it's every single day I have meetings with people and they're in a guest bedroom or their bedroom. You know, people's bed. It's insane the world we live in now. It's so different. And so I think the simplest way I can describe what happened in 2020 is that it made everybody realize that their computer is a camera. And it got them a lot more comfortable being on camera. And that changed all these expectations. Like up until that moment, for us, you know, been in video for a long time. I watched the DSLR come along and make the price of videos cheaper. I watched the iPhone add video and make the price of videos getting cheaper. I watched people hire producers internally, and that brought down the price of each video. And then I watched this change. And what happened suddenly in 2020 was, okay, anyone can make a video. and I can ask you to make a video, or I can ask you to make a camera, or we can do a podcast. It's assumed it's going to be a remote, and then I'm going to have a setup, and you're going to have a setup. That's just so different than where we were before. And so for us, it meant that our customers now are looking at this option of like, why can't we make video here? Like, of course we can make video. And so a lot of the shift that Wistia has been through starting in like basically late 2020 is we're actually going to help you make the videos. We're actually going to help you edit the videos. We're going to help you repurpose the videos. And the stuff that I play around with that's not out yet is like all tools to help you have even more confidence that the stuff you're making is going to be really professional, make you look really good. And if you do that, I find it's even easier to make the content.
There's so much to unpack in that. I think one thing I wanted to mention early on, I kind of want to talk about Tom Bilyeu talks about a similar model as you, where it's like, forget the money, forget the end goal. Like you think the mansion, you think becoming the CEO, you think having the company with 300 employees, all this stuff is like great. It's like awesome. But he's like that grind of when you realize that you're starting to get that traction, you're starting to do the thing, the cogs are starting to move the way you wanted them to. He's like, that is the best high feeling in the world. And it was like literally when you were talking about that kind of took me back to a podcast of his I was listening to yesterday. I want to talk a little bit more about your story, but before we go there, I have one last scripted question to ask. And
we're
that
still
is
unscripted.
My card's here.
Yeah.
What kind of help is Wistia looking for? You know, obviously Hustle Wing is a community of side hustlers, and we've got a bunch of people packed in there. We have product people, marketing people, this, that. Is there any side hustle help or contract-based work that Wistia has now or in the future coming up?
That's a really good question. Something that comes up for us, there's a lot of different things. I mean, I don't know how many video producers you have in the audience, but like a common question we get asked is like, hey, do you have someone who can help me repurpose this? Do you have someone who can help me edit this? Do you have something to give me more confidence shooting something? So that's something I think if you're one of those people, like joining the Wistia community is like probably a good idea, because we have a lot of people asking for that type of help. And so that's like, it's like helping our customers and partners is the way you can help us in that way. We have a lot of these new creation features that we're making. I'll give you another example. We just launched AI background music a few weeks ago, and it just simply takes like, you have about 15 tracks you can pick from, and it automatically adjusts the track to exactly how long the video is. So what we're doing is repeating certain areas of the track for you, so that it sounds like it finishes, it resolves, at the right time, it ramps up at the beginning. It's stuff you don't really think about, but actually finding like business focused music is like kind of annoying and tough. That's the type of thing that we put in there. That's the type of thing that I would love more people to be playing with and giving us feedback. Like get in there, use the product, tell us what you think. I'm going through more things. We have a show right now called Fix My Setup, where we're completely making over people's like home video production setups. So we did mine. That's why mine looks the way that it does. I don't know if your viewers can see this or if we're only audio. But we have a series that we launched on that with about 6 episodes to start. People can apply to win their own setup, to fix their setup. And then we're going to start to build out the show with those viewers who have been actively fixing their setups. And so that's another thing that people can check out that might be kind of cool, because if you're someone who can help other people with video or help them think about how to do this, like I think that's like an interesting way to work together too.
Yeah, that's fun. I'm a hardware and software nerd, so I think the combination of both, it's really cool. That podcast I should definitely check out for me. There's so much in your story that's really interesting. Like one of the things that you said is like, I hope it's on my tombstone, and it's like, I think one of the dirtiest words or phrases rather in startup land is like best practices, because it's like in order to do something no one's ever done, you need to blaze a new trail. And you touch on that so well. And the other thing that you touched on, which was really interesting to me, and I don't know if you see this a lot in current startup culture, but the fact that you guys had this exit opportunity in 2017 or 2018, 2017?
2017, yeah.
And you, like, I know you really mean what you were saying when you're talking about the journey and how it's starting over. And because you guys stuck with it when you could have easily sold it and exited and all that stuff. And I don't know, where you're coming from in that, but I imagine you build this amazing team, you build this incredible product, you have this co-founder who's a good friend, you go through hell with, and you get to this point, and it's kind of like, in my mind, it'd be like a child, like giving your child away. It's like how, you can't just do that. So talk to us a little bit about
What
that
happened?
piece of it.
Yeah, so we had this opportunity to sell the business in 2017. We had three different acquirers come after the business at the same time, which was funny and surprising, and not something I expected. But as that happened, we're like, oh, we should talk to these people. Like they want to buy our company. We should maybe something's happening. Maybe we should talk to them. And we talked to them, and we got offers, and we were sitting there with an offer in hand, saying, what would we do if we took this offer? And the founders of the acquirer and other people we talked to were like, hey, if you sell this business like to us, you're going to leave. You're going to leave the company. Like you're not going to stay at some big company. And I was like, ha 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 ha. And they're like, no, that's probably what's going to happen. I'm like, interesting. And so my co-founder Brent and I were sitting there one day. We're like, well, what would we do if we left after 2 years? We started making a list of all the things we'd do. Like, well, the first thing is we'd start another company. Why? We're young. We love working together. We think we have a unique partnership. We do more of that. Okay. What space would we get into? Well, it's 2017. We're looking at video. It's really changing. We see all these exciting things to do there that we're not doing. Great. What type of business would we build? We would build a profitable company. Why? Because when we'd been really profitable, we'd made better business decisions. Like we'd been more creative. We'd been more long-term focused when we're profitable. Okay, we do that. Who would we hire? We're going through the list. And in the course of about 30 minutes, we realized if we sold Wistia, we would just try to rebuild it. And I really mean that. It was like a realization to us that this is like what we were not planning on getting there. And then when we thought we'd rebuild it, we said, why? Well, if we're going to rebuild it, is that because it's broken? And it took that moment for us to realize that we were actually both unhappy. And we were unhappy because we'd been running the business like kind of the wrong way for us. Before those acquisition offers, we've been running at a loss. We've been trying everything we could. We'd been greenlighting tons of different programs and things to try to like juice growth because we'd gotten feedback a few years before that we were too profitable for our growth rate. It was like, you guys are growing fast and you're so profitable. This is a mistake. You could be growing even faster. Your valuation would be higher. There would be more value in the business. So everyone we spoke to said that, and we actually listened to the advice and we made the mistake. We went too hard and we weren't really sure why we were going so hard. But like we greenlit things we shouldn't have greenlit. We lost the ability to ask the simple question, which is, if you're doing something new, is there something you're doing that's actually not working? Some test? And should you stop that thing and take that good person and put them on the new one? And so as we lost that rigor, we had zombie projects. We had things that weren't going well. We were dealing with like a lot of stress. And it took the acquisition offers to realize that we had actually kind of broken the thing we left. And then once we realized that, we're like, well, let's just fix it. And so we decided to say no to the acquisition offers. We decided that to fix it, we needed to be profitable because we felt like when you're profitable, it's much easier to be long-term focused. And this is a little counterintuitive, but when you're running at a loss, and say you're losing $150,000 a month, and that's in your budget, you're planning to lose $150,000 a month, and you have $1 million in the bank. All right, you do the math, and you have like six-ish months, a little less. Then you go to the second month of that plan. And actually, instead of losing 150, you lose 200. Why? Because you hired more people, you turned on more new things, you're expecting revenue to grow. Oh, it didn't grow as much. And then it goes another month, same thing. Now you're looking at like, instead of losing 150,000, you're losing 300,000. And the math is very different. Try as you might want to be long-term focused, and you could just say, oh, we'll go raise money or something. No one can be long-term focused under those conditions. They basically 100% of effort, whether or not you say it, goes back to short-term things. And that is what was happening to us. So we had all this focus in the short term, and we weren't doing obvious, smart, long-term things. And so when we decided, hey, we're not going to sell, we need to get back to profitability, which is going to let us be more long-term focused. And we also need to get a return because we did actually raise angel money in the early days, and we had employees who wanted a return, and we were turning down an incredible return. So we hit on this idea of raising debt as a way to get a return for everybody. And so we raised 17 million of debt in 2017. And for context, our revenue at the time was 17 million in revenue. So it was like pretty intense thing to do. And the cool part of the story is that it worked really well. Like we grew way more than we expected. We got much more profitable than we expected. Revenue grew way more than we expected. And at this point, we've actually paid off all that debt. So it's like really great place to be.
Would you say the catalyst for the scenario kind of working out, or the aha moment for you guys, was that this realization that these super intelligent people, successful people, investors, advisors, whoever, that are telling you go this direction, were like going against what was in your and Brendan's like gut?
Kind of. And also, it felt like if we sold then, we would have failed.
It's interesting. The other question I have is, do you have a new level of gratitude kind of going in when you guys got it and you're like, this, I'm living the dream. Like, we are living the dream. Okay, it's not perfect. There's some things we need to optimize,
Yeah.
but we're literally living our dream. If we were to do anything in the world, we would do this over again. Like, what was that like?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think it was like kind of back to what we were talking about before. It's just, man, I feel lucky. Like, I feel lucky that I love what I do and that we have all these great people still sitting here. And, I think we underestimate the value of having something that you've built, having a team that you're excited to work with, working on big problems and serving customers. And, the thing that delights me more than anything is when we make something new and we put it in front of customers and they actually use it and they actually get value out of it. And it's like, wow, we just did something. We made something exist that didn't exist before. And I know it seems a little funny because it's also like, this is a B2B business, but like, I think a lot of people forget that in B2B, there's human beings doing jobs and they want things that save them time. They want things that enable them to do other things. They want things that respect them. And it's actually a really exciting problem space. And because you get to do all those different things, but people have more of a budget usually to spend. And so it's like, yeah, I love that feeling. I love that feeling of building things. I love that feeling of solving problems. I feel lucky to do what I do. And so it's very much like, as long as it's fun and these problems are exciting to solve, like, we'll be good.
It's the key. I think it's pretty cool what you guys do in terms of creating like successful business owners create jobs for other people. And so in that way, you guys have massive impact. I know we're just about at time. Two things I wanted to cover. Obviously, where can people find you? And then before we go there, because I think most people will know where to find you, but we might as well cover it. The last thing I want to talk about is there any entrepreneurial nuggets? You've been doing this for a long time, and I know you're big in the space. I watch you on LinkedIn, and you have a lot of things. We have 30 seconds. What's a gold nugget you could share for entrepreneurs like myself or people in the hustling community, maybe that end up running their own company that are just struggling it out?
A golden nugget for getting through the struggle?
Yeah, I think that's probably the bulk of it, right? Like, just staying persistent when it's not looking good. And especially economic times when you thought you were going to fundraise and now you're bootstrapped. Like, yeah.
I think the thing I would say there is, I think it's really important to try to get FaceTime with customers and to see how they spend their day and time. And the reason is that, like, if you see, like, I was at a conference a month ago and I saw all these customers and potential customers in person. And everyone's talking about their problems, telling me what they're working on, telling me the challenges. And I'm listening really closely and asking a lot of questions around the things that we do. I'm trying to understand how, in terms of the problems they have and the pain that they're trying to solve, how important is the problem and the pains that they're trying to solve that is like, that we can actually help with. And I find it extremely easy to get motivated when I talk to folks and see that. It really changes, like, oh, yes, this problem still exists. Ask them what the solution is. They don't have a good one. Okay, like, let's go. Like, we have open space, like, let's run towards that. And I think the challenge I think you often run into, and the thing that makes this lonely, is if you're not talking to those folks, if you're not spending time with them, if you are just pointedly asking about one feature, it's hard to get the overall picture. And so I think that's just, for me, I think that's something that's really, really helpful, is getting that in-person time. And then I think the other thing is, like, if you're doing it right, we get passionate about what is successful. So if you're on something and it starts to work, it gets more fun. Or if you're working with people that you can tell you do great work with them, it gets more fun. And I think you just have to kind of look for that a little bit. And if you're not having more fun in the problem solving and the people that you work with, if you're not feeling like you're getting better, if you're not feeling like customers are responding differently, yeah, it gets really freaking hard. So you got to look for those things, like actively look for them. When you find them, lean into them, and that's how you make the work more fulfilling. That's how you increase your likelihood of success. Like sometimes it's just like being persistent, being in the game lets you get the chance to be lucky, right? But if you're only on something for a short period of time, you don't have as much of a chance. And so I do look at that as like, that is the ultimate hack, is like, can you get yourself to be on the problem for long enough if it's a problem that's worthy of solving? And a lot of that's your own psychology and who you work with, and really what makes it fun to do this.
Yeah. There's recently I've been toiling with the whole thing of fallacy of sunk costs. And I think sometimes you have to throw that away and just be like, yeah, I'm going to keep going, even when it might not make sense. And sometimes you do need to maybe call it, but I've been trying, that balance is so hard to strike, but that's a conversation for a later date. I know we're at time. Where can folks find you? And yeah, anything else you want to add?
Oh yeah. No, first of all, thank you for having me. This has been great. And obviously I could keep talking about all these things. And I have a podcast called Talking Too Loud where I do talk about a lot of these things. So if you want more of me talking to entrepreneurs and trying to get really heady about what it takes to build a business, check out Talking Too Loud. And you can find me on LinkedIn, Chris Savage on LinkedIn. And I am also, of course, you can find us at Wistia to learn more about the product and services. And I am also on x.com.
If you guys do go to Wistia, make sure you check out Chris's About Us video. It'll give you a good chuckle, and I think it'll teach you a little bit about who he is. Chris, Thank you so much for being here. It's been awesome.
Yes. No, thank you for having me. It's been great.